All right, America, welcome to Liquid Lunch. I'm Rich Valdes, sitting in today for John Tobacco and Frank Morano. And I'm joined by the lovely Jen Kerns, who's going to be giving us an update on impeachment. But first, let's talk about what's going on today. So we've got whistleblowers. We've got this Impeach 45 hashtag that's trending on social media. Where do we go from there? We're going to talk about what is a whistleblower? What is impeachment? Are we having a real impeachment or a pseudo impeachment? And let's go to Jen.
Well, first things first, I'm much better looking than Frank Morano. Let's just get that out of the way.
Absolutely.
Secondly, I think we need to talk about what is a whistleblower. Certainly is not a person who hears something second, third, or maybe fourth hand in the White House, as if this is some sort of 14-year-old girl slumber party. That you remember the game Telephone Operator, where you would whisper a secret to one girl and then she would whisper it to another, and then
before you knew it, it was a totally new story.
Yes, by the end of the circle, it was a totally new story. That's what's going on in the White House today, and we warned about this back in 2017 about the number of holdovers there are from the Obama administration still sitting in the White House in some capacity. There are hundreds of Obama holdovers, in particular in the national intelligence community. And I think this is a problem. It's always been a problem. This is where most of the leaks come from. And now it appears that the Democrats may have even worked together with this whistleblower to help him craft his or her case. So I think this is a political hit job, full stop.
Yeah, so what's interesting is, I mean, it's been developing over a couple of days, right? There's the first, we have the rumors there's a whistleblower. Then the whistleblower comes out and makes these comments. Then the president says there's nothing to it. Matter of fact, there's a transcript for this. Why don't you go ahead and declassify that so that everybody can see everything's above board? So he does that. And it's a dud, right? That nothing happens. The Democrats go on the offensive, and then they find this evidence, and voila, we've got a big nothing burger. So now it's damage control and trying to control the narrative. What are your thoughts on how effective their spin is working to date?
Republicans or Democrats?
The Democrats, for sure.
Well, look, I think Republicans did a phenomenal job of coming out quickly on this. Look how expeditiously the White House put out the copy of the transcript. I'm very happy to see that. And I'll tell you who's a game changer in this, and it's New York's own mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Look at how fierce he's been. Giuliani has the same policy I've had in 15 years as a press secretary. If you're on defense, you're losing. So he just came back out on offense and immediately attacked Joe Biden in this, rightfully so. You see from the transcript. There's plenty of reason to go after Joe Biden. But look, in terms of this whole witch hunt, I mean, I've been calling this Russian collusion witch hunt 2.0 because it's deja vu all over again. But luckily, because of the White House's quick response and because we've been here before, we saw how this played out for 3.5 years, damaging or attempting to damage the White House. We were able to really solve this within 3 days instead of 3 years. So I think the White House has learned. I think President Trump has learned, and I'm very happy with their public relations response on this.
So just following up on that, then it makes sense that Chairman Adam Schiff from the House Intelligence Committee would come out with a transcript of the actual conversation, but decide to ad-lib and create his own parody of it, saying it said this, it said that, almost reading this
like a riddle.
Fantasyland riddle verbatim from something he wrote. He said, I'm only going to say this 7 times. What do you think is going on there? Do you think that? I think that, to me, is way more egregious. He didn't put a disclaimer out there saying, hey, I'm about to fudge the facts. How do you react to that?
Well, look, he's taking his cues from the left-wing media, who also, for the last 3 days, have been paraphrasing. Donald Trump asked for a favor. Donald Trump asked for this. No, he didn't. Any American that's read the transcript knows exactly what happened. The president was actually asking Ukraine to get to the bottom of what happened in 2016 with the Russian meddling in the American election, which is what most Americans actually wanted to know from the Mueller report, but never got an answer to. So Donald Trump was doing the fact-finding that the left really never bothered to do during 3.5 years of an investigation. And he's doing what the American people want, which is to make sure that that sort of meddling doesn't happen again. In fact, in the transcript, Donald Trump actually asked for the server that the alleged Russian collusion and the meddling in the U.S. elections went through, which is a server named CrowdStrike, which was based in Ukraine, that apparently the Russian hackers went through. So he's my hero this week. He shouldn't be running scared at all. He's my hero for asking that. And a lot of suburban women voters, a lot of swing voters, and a lot of independent voters want to know what happened in 2016. Barack Obama sure didn't tell us, even though it was on his watch, but maybe Donald Trump can get to the bottom of it.
So I think you raise a good question, or at least a good point, in that the president is speaking with the president of Ukraine, and in the transcript, he alludes to saying, the Ukraine, you all, CrowdStrike, where's the server? And I think that's really, really pertinent, because it isn't until later that they start talking about the other stuff that is that they're saying he was holding something over someone's head.
Yeah.
He was really saying, and I need a favor though. And I find it interesting, and I've heard others mention it, but that was the first thing that gut check for me.
Yeah.
Was I'm born in Brooklyn, my family's Puerto Rican. Very often we say things, do me a favor, shut up.
Right.
Do me a favor, get me this. Do me a favor is such a, I need a favor, is a very, very common part of New York vernacular.
Right, it's a colloquialism. It's not a quid pro quo. You're not literally asking someone to do you a favor, like a national security favor. You're just saying, hey, you riddle me this. What do you think of this? I totally get it. My grandfather was Puerto Rican. Yeah. I consider myself a quarter Puerto Rican.
There you go.
I get it. I get it.
So with that said, now we're looking at the idea now. I feel like there's such a lack of understanding of how things work, because people become so disenchanted with politics.
Right.
That when somebody comes out and says, Jen Kerns is on TV and she just admitted to wearing a black dress.
Right.
And people automatically think, oh my God, she's wearing a black dress. And
right.
they go with it thinking, yeah, this must be bad.
Right.
But the reality is, isn't it the president's job to be like the diplomat in chief? Beyond the Secretary of State? Isn't it his job to negotiate and make deals on behalf of the United States?
Right. I mean, look at how many phone calls just like this that presidents have had the last couple of administrations. We never heard about note takers in the Situation Room and how the process worked, but suddenly, because Donald Trump's president, we're hearing about how this is odd that you actually have note takers on a call. If you talk to CIA analysts the last few days, they'll tell you that's exactly how it works. So there's no actual transcript. The White House actually stopped the recordings after the whole Richard Nixon, Watergate
They
tapes.
saw how well that worked out.
They saw how well that worked out, and they didn't want foreign dignitaries to be on tape in discussions. So now they have White House staffers in the Situation Room taking notes. Well, if you watched MSNBC or any of those crazy channels the other day, they were making that seem like that was a cover-up, and that's just the day-to-day operations of the White House. So the media has completely lost their minds, and they're trying to make the American people lose their minds with all of these scandal du jour. People have whiplash out there, because what you see is exactly what unfolded this week. Big scandal coming. Donald Trump's going to be impeached. Okay, we're opening an impeachment inquiry. And then the next day, it's nothing. And I think the American people are getting this sort of media whiplash from it. Coming. Donald Trump's going to be impeached. Okay, we're opening an impeachment inquiry. And then the next day, it's nothing. And I think the American people are getting this sort of media whiplash from it. And it's not a good situation, because what the left is risking, and this might be their goal, is for people to be so turned off by the whole situation that then they don't turn out to vote in certain elections. All
right, Jen Kerns, a contributor to thehill.com and press secretary to the California Republican Party. Thank you. She's going to be coming back with us later in the program. We're going to continue to talk about these things. And up next, when we return, we're going to be going to policy analyst and founder of Reality Check, Alan Tonelson. I'm Rich Valdes. This is Liquid Lunch TV. We'll be right back.